Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of Now Creations. Just nice to be with all of you here this morning. In one sense, nothing really to do except just to be in the joy of being yourself, being with friends, being in the spirit. Just the most wonderful thing of all, just to be happy. A couple of comments today. First of all, tonight, if you're able to join us, we welcome you to The New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. That'll be this evening from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Just go to study groups, click on it, and scroll down to The New Earth. And then tomorrow evening, Monday, from 7 to 8 o'clock, we've really had a wonderful presentation of spiritual healing and spiritual activation. I invite you to join us tomorrow evening, Monday, from 7 to 8. Simply go to Now Creations, click on study groups, and scroll down to the meditation on Monday evening. Let's now begin. My dear friends, first of all, what an ongoing joy it is for me to share these teachings with you. An obvious part of the joy, quite frankly, is you. Seeing you become happier, seeing you, in a sense, becoming just more content within yourself, seeing you dealing with life so much better, so much more constructively and effortlessly, seeing you simply being kind and loving, and yet smart and intelligent as you spread a new way of being in the world, both for yourself and for others. Spreading this new way of being is the subject of today's teaching entitled The Last Judgment. You might want to take some notes for this one. I will begin with the different notion of the last judgment that is commonly considered, and then proceed to share a revelation I had about 20 years ago, and then conclude with some insights as to how we might usher in a newer and better world. Let's begin. Let's begin, first of all, with a newer understanding of the Last Judgment. For many people, the Last Judgment is viewed as how you will present your life to the judgment of God, and whether you will be found worthy of a heavenly home. Obviously, this view presents God as the judge of how you have lived, and he will mete out a reward or a punishment. And of course, this frightening scene of being before the judgment seat of God has caused unnecessary worry for many. Will I be good enough? Will God be merciful? What about my family? What about my friends? And of course, what about the verdict itself? Heaven, hell, or a middle state called purgatory, where one is not quite worthy of heaven, at least at the moment, and yet not bad enough to go to hell, as if God would make such a judgment against one of his beloved children. Fortunately, A Course in Miracles offers another view of the Last Judgment. The Last Judgment in A Course in Miracles is not a decision made by God, but rather it is a decision you make about yourself in this lifetime. In A Course in Miracles, the Last Judgment is when you see yourself as God sees you. I'll repeat that. In A Course in Miracles, the Last Judgment is when you see yourself as God sees you. One more time. The Last Judgment is when you see yourself as God sees you. That'll be the last time you make a judgment about yourself or about others. Well, the obvious question is, how does God see you? The answer is that God sees you as his perfect child, created in freedom and made to express love. This is God's eternal view of you. It doesn't change, even if you have a different view of yourself. You are the perfect child, and you have the perfect guidance to create the good, the beautiful, and the holy. And right after that line in the Course in Miracles, the very next line is, do not forget this. Do not forget you are a child of God, creating the good, the beautiful, and the holy. You, me, we are extensions of the God Spirit itself, and we are able to take our rightful place as co-creators of the world. And of course, as you see yourself this way, you will be guided to see others in this way, that they too are the perfect children of the divine. Even the most seemingly despicable person is no less a child of the Most High, to be treated in the same manner as Jesus advised us in the parable of the prodigal son, wherein the loving father welcomes back the prodigal son, who in the father's words was lost and is now found. The last judgment is when you see yourself as God sees you. With this notion of the last judgment in mind, namely seeing yourself as God sees you, let me now share with you a revelation that I had some 20 years ago. I was sleeping and suddenly I was awakened. And then a voice in my bedroom announced the following statement to me, one that I have shared with many of you over the years. The voice clearly stated, stop thinking like a limited, mortal, physical human. Start thinking like an unlimited, eternal soul in complete control of its human persona, instrument, and manifestation. Many of you perhaps remember this slip I shared with you with that very saying on it. Stop thinking like a limited, mortal, physical human. Start thinking like an unlimited, eternal soul in complete control of its human persona, instrument, and manifestation. I'll repeat it one more time. Stop thinking like a limited, mortal, physical human. Start thinking like an unlimited, eternal soul in complete control of its human persona, instrument, and its manifestation. This message has been a guidance to me for quite some time in my life. This message is such a very important notion for me, and I faithfully say it as part of my morning spiritual practice. Let me repeat it again. Stop thinking like a limited, mortal, physical human. Start thinking like an unlimited, eternal soul in complete control of its human persona, instrument, and manifestation. I clearly heard the message. I clearly remembered the message. But it has taken me a long time over these last 20 years to get it. And of course, I am still getting it as it continues to speak to me and to expand me. So let me now share with you the implications of this message in the following considerations as we usher in a new and better world. The first part of the message, stop thinking like a limited, mortal, physical human. Please listen carefully. Well, I realized that that's exactly what I was doing. My view of life at the time was that I was a limited, mortal, physical human. I wanted to change. I wanted to change into that eternal soul, but I didn't understand all of the lessons I needed to learn to move from the limited human perspective into my eternal soulness. The main lesson that I learned is that all diseases, all diseases, physical, emotional, and mental, are caused by limited human thinking, principally by fear, doubt, and worry. I want to repeat that. The main lesson that I learned after all these years is that all diseases, all diseases, physical, emotional, and mental, are caused by limited human thinking, principally by doubt, fear, and worry. This was a big lesson. It took a long time to understand that. And it's quite one thing to understand it, but quite another to move through it, quite another to get it, let alone to rise to another level. But I realized if I simply did the same old things, I get the same old results. I wanted to change. However, getting through the limited human mortal thinking took many twists and turns in my life for me, just as I bet your life has had many twists and turns as well. The four major shifts in my life were the following. The passing of my dear sweet wife, Anne. It was very important to understand that all relationships here on the planet end, and yet there is an eternal relationship that continues. Secondly, the founding of Now Creations in 2005, a major event. My heart attack in 2015, I'll talk more about that in a moment. And especially the fourth thing, the willingness to continue. This is so important. The willingness to continue my spiritual development until I could get beyond the limited human thinking and to move my eternal soulness into that higher place of prominence. Let me now focus again on the disease, how diseases, diseases, play such a significant role in our life's process. I clearly realized that every time I had a negative thought or emotion, although they were not horrendous, but oftentimes they were very self-centered, I realized that every time I had these thoughts and emotions of negativity, they were adding to my dis-ease. Every time, culminating in my view with the heart attack I had 7 years ago. I just didn't know how to release these lower energies of fear, doubt, and worry, and self-centeredness. Well, it was then that the answer clearly hit me. You have to stop thinking like a limited mortal human and start thinking like an unlimited eternal soul in complete control of your human persona instrument and its manifestation. Well, again, this was easier said than done, but essentially it boiled down to two things. The first one first, then the second one. The first one was to start thinking like an unlimited eternal soul. Again, easier said than done, but it got done. It got done. I started thinking like an unlimited eternal soul. As soon as I got an intuitive guidance, I did it. I listened to and I followed the guidance of my soul, not my mind, not my body. I learned to understand the guidance that was coming from my soul. Another way of saying this, and I feel this is very important, was that I put on the mind of the Christ. I developed the Christ mind. I put on the mind of the child of God, the Christ consciousness. What I clearly found was that putting on the mind of the Christ was a clear assistance, which enabled me to release all of the dis-ease, all of the old thoughts and emotions. Let me say it again. What I clearly found was that putting on the mind of the Christ, responding from my soul self, was a clear reduction and eventually a release of all dis-ease thoughts and emotions. This was quite an experience. When I began to experience the old stuff falling away and newer energies coming in. I had found the antidote to dis-ease, by putting on the mind of the Christ, thinking from my eternal, unlimited soul. That's the antidote to any disease. Thinking from the mind of the Christ, from the intuitive guidance of my eternal, unlimited soul. Well, in a sense, this was the easy part, as I said. The first thing came first. But I still had to do the second thing that the voice said to me. I had to bring my eternal soul, unlimited thinking, into my human persona instrument. And I must say that the human persona instrument, so used to its old limited ways of thinking, was not always eager to change. You probably know that. As you know, the human persona instrument is made up of our body, our minds, and the emotions, each of which has its own resistance points. And sometimes all three of them resist together. You know that too. The body. Well, the body began to say that, well, you needed to continue your physical exercises, but you also maybe have to change a few of your foods. This was somewhat easy to do for me, although not initially. It was kind of hard at the beginning to give up some of my favorite ice cream and sweet treats. You know that. The mind was a little harder to contend with, but not as difficult as I thought. I realized that negative thoughts and hesitations just caused uneasiness, and they just needed to go. Such thinking was not too hard to get rid of, because whenever I had that thinking, there was a heaviness on my mind that was uncomfortable, sometimes caused a headache, as opposed to the lighter, freer, happier thoughts for my soul. The body was not too tough. The mind was not too tough to change. But the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts behind the thoughts, they were the biggest roadblock. They were the biggest roadblock because they directly affected my sense of self. Was I really the eternal soul that I was pursuing? Doubts could easily set in. Yet, while the progress into seeing myself as an eternal soul was not instantaneous, it was progressive. I did make progress. Each time I would face an emotion that would challenge my sense of self, from pride to self-centeredness, rejection, I stopped focusing on the limited emotion and began to focus on the opposite, the emotions of my eternal soul, such as love and oneness and joy. What comfort love, oneness, and joy brought, as opposed to the old limited emotions. I focused on the mind of the Christ. I just want to tell you, that's what I did, still do. I focus on the mind of the Christ, my connectedness to my God Spirit. I was beginning to change my sense of self. I was elevated from the limited human perspective into the mind of the Christ, my eternal soul. Now, in complete control of my human persona instrument. I noticed that I was happier, more content, more and more, until I began to realize that, well, this had become my all the time, eyes opened, walking around in the world sense of self, as well as those moments in quiet meditation on internal reflection. I had put on the mind of the Christ. Yet here's the point. I began to see myself as God sees me. I began to see myself as God sees me. I had made the last judgment on my old, limited human self. And I now saw myself as truly the beloved child of goodness itself. I had made my last judgment on my limited, mortal, physical, human self. I began to see myself as God saw me, perfect child. Needless to say, I began to see everyone else in this way. I see you in this way. I have arisen above the battleground of life. I'm still in the world, but no longer of it. I was creating the good, the beautiful, and the holy, and still am. And I am taking my rightful place as co-creator of the universe. But you know what else? No more disease. No more dis-ease. I had finally stopped. And now I can say I have finally stopped thinking like a limited, mortal, physical human. No more dis-ease. In conclusion, there's still one more part of the voice's message that will be the basis of next week's teaching, namely the manifestation, manifesting the soul, bringing heaven to earth and beyond. In the meantime, please see yourself as your divine creator sees you, a beautiful, eternal soul, extending its love and goodness, the good and the beautiful, into the entire world, bringing heaven to earth in your very happy, excited, elevated life. This is ushering in not just a brave new world, but an elevated world. No more disease, because you have put on the mind of the Christ. We are doing this. With that in mind, let me now take you into meditation, and what a joy it is to do so. Again, let us just be thankful that we can come together as not only a group that hears the teaching, but especially coming together as a group that unites in spirit to be elevated by the teaching. Let's begin as we normally do by simply focusing on the breath and allowing the breath to do what it does. Let it calm our bodies, reduce the chatter in our minds, and bring the inner you to the fore. Please begin. And would you just say to yourself, well, here I am. Here I am. This is me. Now, you have progressed enough to know that when you say, this is me, it is not your body. It's not even your mind. It's not your personality self. It's not any of those drama-laden things that promote fear, doubt, and worry. It's not any of them. When you say, here I am, this is me. This is your soul. This is the inner you. Now, how does God see you? God sees you as your soul, perfect child. God sees you as a perfect child. Your soul is what God created, perfect child, eternal soul. Because we were in the game of separation, we created all the rest. The body, personality, self, the world, and all of the things that came from it. The fear, the doubt, the worry, the anxiety. But you have stopped thinking that way. You have stopped thinking like a limited mortal physical human that is trapped in your mind and body. You've stopped. You have ended the game of separation. You've stopped. Now, here's the point. Honestly, honestly, haven't you started thinking from your soul? Haven't you become conscious of the inner you? Now, honestly, haven't you? I mean, honestly, haven't you stopped thinking like a limited mortal physical human? Have you not consciously moved into the guidance of your soul? At least most of the time. And I bet you like what you see. You like what you see when you see yourself. When you see yourself as God sees you, as God created you, what a beautiful sight you are. Loving, kind, smart, intelligent, happy, joyful. These qualities are you. Now, would you not say that what you experience in, let's just say, this moment right now, this conscious knowing of your soul with all of its lovely qualities, would you not say that this is becoming your everyday self? This is becoming your MO. That's the way you operate in the world. Then would you not say that as you see yourself this way, that you are ushering in, a new way, a better way for yourself and for the people in your immediate surroundings? Now that you see yourself as God sees you, it's made a difference in your life and how you see other people, even those a little obnoxious at times. But here's the clincher: no more dis-ease. No more dis-ease. Because you happily see yourself as God sees you. You've made the last judgment about yourself and about others. Namaste.
Deep within, peace resides, faith abounds, and love abides. The light shines bright to illumine love without, love within. I honor thee, I honor thee. Namaste, I honor thee. I honor thee. I honor thee. Namaste. I honor thee. When you are where you need to be, within that space, I honor thee. Seen through eyes of illusion, seen through spirit, I honor thee, I honor thee, I honor thee. Namaste, I honor thee. I honor thee, I honor thee, I honor thee. Namaste, I honor thee. Namaste, I honor
Now you have to smile this morning, huh? When you make the last judgment on your limited mortal human self and see yourself as God sees you, as an eternal beloved child, you enter eternal life. Namaste.